calling from a 908 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, is this me?
Yes, this is you.
Hi, I'm Hillary from Brooklyn.
Hillary from Brooklyn. What's on your mind, Hillary?
So I'm calling about the, I'm a public defender here in New York, and I'm calling about the Manhattan DA's office wild overreach in charging Luigi Mangione with murder in the first degree. As a little background, people are most commonly charged with murder in the second degree, which is basically just with the intent to cause the death of another person, you cause the death of that person. So it's an intentional killing. Murder in the first degree is an intentional killing plus an aggravating factor. And in the case of Luigi, it's basically an intentional killing, and the victim was killed in furtherance of an act of terrorism. An act of terrorism is defined as for the purposes, a violent act. Basically, the murder was, for Luigi, the murder was for the purpose of intending to intimidate or coerce a civilian population.
Right. There are three things. As far as I know, in terms of like adding the terrorism to that charge. Intimidate or coerce a civilian population, influence a policy unit of government by intimidation or coercion, or affect the conduct of a unit of government by murder, assassination, or kidnapping. This guy obviously didn't work for the government. I don't know what unit of government would be in some way influenced by the killing of a CEO.
No, it has to be the first one.
And intimidate or coerce the civilian population. This guy specifically...
It has to be that.
That is about, like, the random... Isn't that, like, the reason why terrorism coerces or intimidates the civilian population is because almost it's random. Right? Like it strikes fear in people. And this guy literally like waved a woman away and just said, no, I'm just here for this specific guy.
Well, that's what makes this really interesting and this sort of wild overreach, because and obviously this aggravating factor was added to the statute after 9/11. That's the kind of terrorism that was envisioned by the legislature when they added this. And so if you think about this indictment, what this means is that they must be defining a civilian population as millionaire CEOs of health insurance companies. And it's interesting because like there has been this overreach before, if you'll indulge me. The DAs tried to charge someone related to involved in a gang shooting with this part of the statute. And the DAs, because it was a high publicity case, I think a random kid was killed in the shooting. So they tried to go for the statute. Oh, and the purpose of this is murder one can carry a sentence of life without parole, as opposed to murder two, which is 25 to life. So in this gang case, it went up to the Court of Appeals, which is our highest court, and the Court of Appeals reversed the conviction and gave this guy a new trial. And there's a good quote. It's called People v. Morales. And they say, sorry, give me a second. They basically, this case basically is saying that the DA's office can't do what they're trying to do with Luigi. They say, if we were to apply a broad definition to intent to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, the people could invoke the specter of terrorism every time a blood assaults a Crip or an organized crime family orchestrates the murder of a rival syndicate soldier. But the concept of terrorism has a unique meaning, and its implications risk being trivialized if the terminology is applied loosely in situations that do not match our collective understanding of what constitutes a terrorist act. So he's basically doing the same thing, and the only civilian population I can think of are CEOs, because the rest of the population has reacted quite the opposite.
And so what happens if he brings this case and the judge, I mean, is this something that like the judge could theoretically, like the defense will say, we want a summary judgment here, or like what, like walk me through this?
Yeah, basically it's you. Yeah, so the defense will file a motion that says to like inspect the grand jury minutes, which is basically what was presented to the grand jurors and the legal definitions provided, and then ask the judge to dismiss any counts that weren't made out in the grand jury. So the judge could do that in an earlier stage of the case, but if it passes that threshold, then there would be the trial, and at the end of the trial, the defense attorney could again say, okay, after all the evidence was presented at trial, they didn't establish this beyond a reasonable doubt, and have that charge thrown out and not be presented to the jury.
Are there subsidiary charges?
Those two things could happen.
Are there subsidiary charges?
He's charged with murder too as well.
Okay. So,
and I have no idea why the DA's office is doing this. I don't understand the strategy. That type of overreach can often shoot them in the foot, and result in an acquittal. So it seems like a publicity stunt, but an unstrategic one, in my opinion.
Yeah, it seems ridiculous to me. I don't know what's behind it, but maybe, CEO funding of his next election. Who knows? I mean, I know maybe you don't want to say that.
I don't know.
I'm happy to say it.
To see how they're going to try to play that.
I appreciate the call.
No, I'm fine with you saying that. Absolutely. All right, thanks.
All right, case dismissed. Wanted to say that to a defense attorney.
That's one thing that from my grand jury experience, I was not the most sort of like ready to throw out charges of all the people on that jury. I mean, I was probably on the spectrum farther, but like very often, if it was just like a gun charge that like a guy got, I remember a specific one, guy got caught with a gun in a vehicle, but it was just like a traffic stop, and people who threw it out. I mean, you can just do that. It's a grand jury, so maybe it's a different case with like a trial jury or something like that. But that's why it doesn't surprise me that the Penny case went for 20 hours and they didn't indict, because all it takes is a few people to say, no, I'm not going to do this.
Right. Hey, with Trump's inauguration coming up, we're already seeing what the next 4 years will look like. His senior campaign official threatened Pennsylvania election workers with jail time for counting mail-in ballots with technical errors like missing dates. The real issue with that? Only one left-leaning outlet has covered this story, leaving Trump's base room to dominate the narrative. This isn't just about Pennsylvania. It's a preview of the tactics we're going to see for the next 4 years, so we can't afford not to pay attention. That's why I've been a longtime partner with Ground News. It's an independent app and website that shows us how important stories shaping our lives get covered or ignored across the political spectrum. Plus, it gives context on why they might be missing from our feeds in the first place. For those of you feeling politically burnt out, Ground News makes it easy to stay informed without feeling overwhelmed. Their daily briefings give you a quick, factual breakdowns of the day's biggest stories from every angle. They are also knocking down the price of their top-tier Vantage plan to under $5 a month for our listeners. Just go to ground.news/majority or scan my QR code to subscribe. It's their biggest discount of the year. And maybe even gift one to someone you know. By supporting Ground News, you're not just supporting my channel, you're ensuring independent voices don't disappear. Because what's happening in Pennsylvania is a warning. If we don't push back now, the next election is going to be even harder. Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.